This program is proudly brought to you by LateNightMedia.com for all your podcasting, comedy writing, and hot steaming pod needs. LateNightMedia.com.
Conscious wisdom, challenging our skeptical, critical thinking, digging deep into the dark and the light, and exploring the depths of our mind, body, and spirit. The podcast sprinkled with science, creativity, ageless wisdom, philosophy, and conspiracy. So be part of the discussion and get involved. Be part of the action of thinking and being the revolution. Be conscious with wisdom. Conscious wisdom, challenging our skeptical, critical thinking.
So I was very interested in that whole connection with the Hermetic Wisdom, Thoth, and I sort of collided at that point of realizing that there's this subtext to religions. There's another group of thinking that sort of is bred out of that idea, but they don't really have a scripture per se. They have many ancient texts that they might study, but they don't actually have a Bible per se.
It's more like philosophy.
Yeah, it's philosophical. Yeah. And of course, I think that comes back to Sophia. For me, in my little journey through mythology, was to find that the Latin word for Sophia actually means wisdom. So when you say philosophia, you're talking about philo, which is the love of, Sophia, wisdom. So philosophy is just the love of wisdom, discussing, debating, pulling stuff apart, pondering on it, really getting a deeper insight into something, asking questions about stuff.
I like it. Sounds good. Now, Kitch, when you were growing up, did you get much of like an Indigenous take on your religions from Samoa, or is it? Yeah. Did you get more of that really strict kind of Christian upbringing? See,
the culture's strong. Like our language, we call it Whakasāmoa. Obviously the tattooing, the better getting the tattooing. Not these ones, like the proper.
Is it very similar to the in New Zealand with the New Zealanders? Well, that sort of tattooing.
I guess the traditional Māoris, the girls have the moko.
Yeah,
is that right? Yep. And the tā moko, the boys. I don't know if you've seen the traditional Samoan. It's from here, past my knees.
Yes, I've seen it before. Yeah, definitely.
So, now our culture and all that is very strong. Now, if we discuss religious ways, I had to actually search a bit to find out the traditional. And I just told Greg today. I just found out what we used to call our god or the creator is Tangaloa, which is weird though. What I mean by weird, because in the New Zealand culture, long story short, our people, Polynesian people, were one people first, before we all split. And the funny thing is, our god's called Tangaloa. If you go to the traditional Māori, Tangaroa is the god of water, but it's almost the same, sort of.
It's just a bit of change of phonetics.
Yeah.
So same guy, but the phonetics change. You can see that
the god
everywhere.
Of water, and our Tangaloa is like the god, the creator. Now, as for religious side, I think the same as when Getano was explaining. It's more our people. Well, the funny thing is, both of our people were cannibal people, and there was a lot of war. I guess the thing was, our countries were run by our system of having chiefs to basically, if there was an argument, we were explaining it today at dinner, like if we had a fight, our two chiefs in our family would come together, and if I beat you up pretty good, and your chief will go, okay, then to settle this, Kitch, you have to give him 2 pigs, 4 horses, type of thing. So that's the culture strong, which is still today. Like our culture is really strong, and I'm very grateful for it. But as for religion side, I guess it's almost like...
Was it more secretive? Like if you were a mainstream guy and you didn't have aspirations to be like a leader, would that be that you wouldn't be taught like secret teachings?
No, I think it's a hard thing. Well, the better is one of them. So like, I guess you could sort of look that as a religious status, but to get the tattoo, it's it's not a tattoo. It's like a spiritual journey for us men and women. So our women, they get the tattoo. It's called a malu, which is just from the thighs, and us men is the beta, which is from the back, which explains our history from the canoe going down to the seas and the waters. But yeah, going back to the religious side, it's really, I'm not saying it was dark, but I guess you have the god of the water, the god of the ocean, god of the, the like Zeus or like Thoth, but we had Tangaloa. But then it was almost when I guess the first white man came over, we ate him first, and then the next white man came over.
I like that story. The first missionary arrived and we just
taste him first.
We thought, it's dinner.
It could have been our god, but we were kind of hungry. And
he looks just different meat.
Yeah, we thought he might have been a chicken, and he just lost his feathers.
I was going to say all meat is chicken.
I know, but it was weird that way. So that's why we embraced it, because it was sort of like the same thing with Tusha Islands, like the light comes. So that's why our people were still the only, I guess, our country, when it comes to Sundays, everyone's at church. Whether you be Mormon, Christian, Catholics, 7 days, if you come to the islands, you'll see there'll only be about 2 people at home, and those 2 people are doing the cooking, or our traditional oven, the umu, doing the umu. Some of the boys at our mamanga, which is like the plantation, getting the galo, taro, the pig, all that stuff. So there's only literally about 2 people at home doing the cooking, but everyone is at church. So it's almost like finding that spiritual connection to have the faith, I guess,
Like when we're talking about spirituality, I don't think spirituality is just what I believe. I think it's how I act and how I interact with the community.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And a lot of people, community is spiritual. It is, if it's everything that you grow up in your family, I see that as a very spiritual type of thing. And when I say that we may have lost this community, it's kind of we're losing this. When you go to school, they talk about spirit. And I think it's the same thing. It's like we're taught about this spirit in school and togetherness, but then when we go off into the workforce and we go off into our closed off little house, we don't apply these things to our culture, especially in Western, where there's no spirit. It's like you and your neighbours, your street. It's like we're not applying even put a bit of competition for something. One street playing a cricket game against another street. We're sort of not banding together into these formal things to bring us together.
And I think it's people's understanding of it. I mean, when we had the big floods recently in Brisbane and everyone banded together and jumped on buses and they went through people's houses and helped out, there's this whole sense of community. But on the flip side of that, people who I know who've had people come through their house, so they just threw out everything. They didn't even talk to us. They just saw it as all mud and junk. But they said in there was photos. It was memorabilia. It was granddad's chair. So on one level, everyone had the sense of community, but no one had the well, not everyone, but some people didn't consult who they were helping. So there's this misguided. You go to a football match and you're here with your crew singing out for your team, and there's the other side, and the Viking thing or the images of the medieval tournaments or something. Yeah,
we all had beards. Just putting that out there.
And it's interesting the footy finals we had recently, and people having footy final parties, and so it was like these tribes getting together to cheer their crew on. And this weekend we'll have New Zealanders and Australians all gathering, having parties, but it's like Mary Graham, who lectures in Indigenous knowledge, she talks about Indigenous knowledge like this. She said it's a web, everything's interconnected. She said, but when you look at Western culture, it's like this. We need to, whatever that wonderful word is, put everything into boxes.
Compartmentalize. That's what you have to.
That beautiful word. Yeah. So I'm a worker, I'm a father, I'm all of these things. And and we keep them separately. And that's how we feel safe. But Indigenous people are, well, you know, if I don't have flour, you know, and we all grew up, I'm sure, back in the 70s, 80s, hey, go next door and get some butter. Because when they didn't have that, you know, they might need some sugar or they might need some eggs next week. So this whole reciprocal thing again. But all of a sudden people said, well, let's start building our empires. Let's start building our fences. Let's start protecting what we have. And
it's kind of like we all got introduced to this weird Game of Thrones mentality where it's just like, my house has to be bigger than yours, and exactly like something that was from the Game of Thrones TV show.
You've got a microwave? I need to go and get a microwave. You've got the latest car? So
I've got so much microwave that I'm going to leave all my microwaves on the front. Even though it's broken, you can take them because I know that your microwaves aren't as good as mine.